Good morning, everyone, and welcome once again. It's Friday. Let's get this one sorted quickly.
Christmas mood, wherever you might be this morning. Oh, well, if you want to listen to more music or know what we're doing here on STARR Radio, you got to get yourself ready because, well, from our North London studios, I've got my colleague and competence of Mr. Live because he's live there as well. Okay, so that's you from Judgement Richards. Christmas tune made from the African board. Okay. Let's see what we can hear, Mr. Live, because it seems like our image is frozen there. Okay, now it's working well. It's working well. Okay. Good morning and welcome. Welcome to the program. And let me say good morning to my colleague, Mr. Online. Good morning. How are you?
Well, a very good morning to you back in the studio, Mr. Archie. Good morning to our viewers, and good morning to Franca. Good morning to all our presenters, and welcome once again to the morning show. I'm doing very well. It's a bit cold weather outside as usual, but we're used to that now, I guess.
Oh, of course. I remember one time I was having a chat with Felix. He is in Aberdeen, and Aberdeen is one of the coldest places. And I was complaining. I said, it's cold. He said, hey, you've been living here for all these ages. You should be used to that. Stop saying that. I said, okay, I hear you. So wherever you are listening to us from, whether it's hot, whether it's cold, that is the temperature you live in. Yeah, so enjoy it, whatever it is. All right, then. All right. Yes, let's hit the ground running because yesterday before we left, we were talking about the pending case, the ruling from the Supreme Court that was going to be taking place in line with Nnamdi Kanu's case. Now, information has come through that the Supreme Court has ruled that he needs to stand trial.
Let's pick, what is coming from Abuja is a very, interesting case that is going to now, seems that, the Supreme Court have literally ruled against, the judgment that we had previously, on Nnamdi Kanu's case. I guess I can give you what we call a snip from the legal team, and let's listen to that, and we'll come back to you in just about a few minutes. Bear with us while we're trying to get the sound out on that, on the legal team that spoke at the Supreme Court hearing this morning from Abuja.
say it's a bit ambiguous. So I'm going to speak very briefly so that I do not preempt what is going to come out of the registry of the court. We are going to properly apply for certified true copies of what the justice stated in court today. But some things that he made clear were as follows: that number one, Mazin Nnamdi was enjoying his bail when his house was invaded, and that was wrong. If you recall, we had obtained a judgment in 2022 at the High Court in Abia State, awarding him 1 billion. So this indirectly affirms that judgment. And that the manner of bringing him into Nigeria was also wrong. But despite all of that, the Supreme Court found cause to send this case back to the Federal High Court. And sending it back to the Federal High Court is actually called remission. And when they remit with instructions. We don't know yet what those instructions are because we don't have certified true copies of the judgment and the judgment order. So in days to come, that will be available and will be made available to the press.
Okay, please, when the judge said appeal and cross appeal, what does it mean?
Well, if government appealed against the discharge granted by the Court of Appeal and we cross appeal, okay, against the stay of execution granted by the Court of Appeal. So these were the issues. But what came out was that the revocation of his bail.
Well,
so this in fact has created a basis to further seek his release, through some other means.
So the judge is saying that the trial should continue. What does it mean for your team now?
Well, basically, it's going to continue, or it's going.
Well,
proceed in accordance with the instructions the Supreme Court has issued. And those instructions will be clearer when we get them in writing. So the judge or the Federal High Court judge will have to be restricted within those. It's called a remission. So they have to carry out, the Federal High Court has to carry out
those are words coming from Abuja this morning, as many people will probably be a little bit disappointed. I'm getting a feedback. I'm not too sure whether it's from your end, Mr. Archie.
Okay. Yes, I think there might have been a bit of the volume a bit up there, and that might be causing the feedback there. Is it okay now? Is it much better?
Yes, a bit better now. Yes.
Okay. Let's start ready. Okay. Now it's interesting.
So the Supreme Court has upheld what the federal government appeal, that is, challenging the verdict of the appeal court, which dismissed the charges against Nnamdi Kanu. In upholding the government's appeal, the Supreme Court held that Nnamdi Kanu must now face trial at the Federal High Court. The Supreme Court, in the judgment that was delivered by Justice Emmanuel Agim, but prepared by Justice Gabala, held that the Court of Appeal was actually wrong, to rule that Nnamdi Kanu could not be tried again based on the illegality perpetrated against him by the federal government following the invasion of his home in 2017, where almost 15 people were killed. He also went further that the court held that although the Nigerian government, of former President Muhammadu Buhari and the Vice President Yemi Osinbajo was reckless and unlawful, kidnapping and rendition in Nnamdi Kanu from Kenya, which was unlawful act, has not been divested any court from proceeding with the trial. Justice Lawa said that no Nigerian law was cited in the suit against Mazi Nnamdi Kanu's release on the ground of unlawful adoption from Kenya. And also, according to the court, at the moment, the remedy for such an action is for Nnamdi Kanu to file for a civil matter against the act instead of removing the powers of the court to continue with his trial. Remember that it was actually on a trial before he left Nigeria when the Python dance led into his house in 2017. I'm just taking us back for many that might probably not understood where it stands. So Nnamdi Kanu had a previous court case, with the federal government, but it seems that, that was quashed, but now the Supreme Court says Nnamdi Kanu must face trial for the charges, but he can also, apply for a civil matter in how he was renditioned and kidnapped back to Nigeria. Though Kanu was not presented in the court, I got that rumor yesterday that he's not really strong in terms of his health. We've been complaining of that for some time now. But this judgment that was delivered was in a very tight security and follow calls by the Ohanize and some others that continue to request the Nnamdi Kanu should be released.
Well, listeners, it is STARR Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London, and that is developments coming from Abuja this morning pertaining to Nnamdi Kanu's case. Now, the question again is, well, someone will say is what they are doing looks like the end justifies the means. So not necessarily whatever he did, how they managed to, rendition him to the country, that doesn't matter at all. They're not looking at that. No, they're saying it was a reckless move by the then government of Buhari. However, the case has to go on. But are they going to be specific to say, look, he has to be tried? Well, that's what the lawyer was saying, that they've not got those details yet, so we'll be following very, very closely. But has Simon Ekpa and the IPOP leadership said anything so far?
Well, let me see if I can pick up anything. I know that as of today, the Southeast is on a total lockdown, and that will be till the 19th of the month, which means that, the government in exile of the Biafra, Mazi Simon Ekpa, has literally, given that order, last week, as we've been following that. But in terms of these, latest developments, I will be able to tell you what I can say, that is coming from their end in the last few hours on his X page, which is where we pick up a lot. Well, he also went further to say that, I'm just reading that just 34 minutes ago. The criminal and the treacherous Ejiofor has done it again. It can never go unpunished. They have concluded to reverse the judgment. But again, just previous to 2 hours before that, the Biafra lockdown begins with a compliance, which is going to be the 15th, the 18th, and the 19th. And that is also, with a lot of, evidence that many shops and businesses, just as again, locked down, as many senators, remember last week, continue to complain that, the e-commerce in the Southeast is badly now being affected with the lockdown directive from the government in exile, Simon Ekpa, from his base in Finland.
Well, listeners, it's STARR Radio UK. We're still bringing you the developments, the latest development from Abuja pertaining to Nnamdi Kanu's case. Now, let's look at the impact of the stay at home, or the lockdown, as we put it that way. That's going to last till the 19th of December. Now, we know that the state economy itself is being affected, but individuals, how are they taking that? Because if I have to go and sell my pepper or my akara in the market to make ends meet, to be able to fend for my family, and then you say we should stay at home, therefore I will not be able to do anything. So it's impacting my own personal economy. So if it will get to a point where I think that it's impacting me so much that I might end up not supporting that quest. So how are the people on the ground feeling so far about this lockdown, especially when the federal government seem to be fighting and that, making sure that, well, they are not going to let Nnamdi Kanu out just like that.
Well, you're quite right. Many might not really, be pleased, with this kind of development where the Southeast becomes, a no-trade business environment, especially on a Monday, and also, few days like these when, court case of Nnamdi Kanu is coming on air. But the argument from the government in exile of the Biafran is that, as long as the Nnamdi Kanu case, is not being looked into properly, then there would always be this civil disobedience. We cannot sit here and say that almost everyone agrees with it, for the lockdown in the Southeast on a Monday, but also it seems that is the only way, to show their grievances. And that is literally generating a lot of, conversation. You can just go straight and see what the FCDO has been saying in terms of traveling to Nigeria. It talks about traveling to Nigeria and also avoiding that particular part of the region. Remember that last week, the British High Commissioner actually stated that 21 states in Nigeria should not be visited, in the country. Well, even though Lagos was not mentioned, but we're going to talk about, the Professor Moyo Okedeji, which there's now been some development. He was traveling not to Southeast, he was coming in from another region, into Nigeria from Benin Republic. So the whole case of the Biafrans is now, would this government allow a fair trial, even if this trial judgment continue. I mean, nobody wants, unexpected, unjustified trial. But if a trial is meant to go ahead, would it be fair? Would there be no intervention from the federal government? That is the question. Remember now that Nnamdi Kanu has literally spent about 3 years, would that be factored into it? What was his offense? I remember the offense that the federal government, as at the time, the former president Muhammadu Buhari, that we can also say is very biased in terms of the handling of the situation in the southeast, because it seems that from what he has said, the reason why the Twitter was shut down, on us for 6 months was because he was reminding the Igbos of how they were dealt with during the Civil War. The question then is, the state that Nigeria is, it seems that we are all sitting on the keg of a time bomb.
Of course, that seems to be what exactly is going on. But so far, we know that Ohanize has few times spoken to the president, the former president. I don't know whether they've spoken to the current president.
They have already.
They have already. Now, has there been any reaction, any move from them? Because when they approved Buhari, then at the time, what he said was that, okay, what we can do, let the case go the full length. And when they said that, okay, he needs to be incarcerated for maybe 5 years or 10 years, then the president can say, okay, I pardon him for that. But all the moves were there, and then we had the appeal court saying that it should not be tried and everything. And then they decided, no. So the president didn't do whatever he was doing. They could have let him out, but they didn't. Now, do you think we're going to see something different from our current president and with the move Tinubu and with the move from the Ohanize as well?
I think from my own side, looking at the situation, it seems also that this current administration is just trying to avoid the situation of the Biafrans, but there's no way anyone can avoid it. The case of Nnamdi Kanu is literally gone beyond Nigeria. It's just something that must be discussed, must be looked into. First and foremost, what is he fighting for? That's the question. It's not the first time that we are seeing people fighting for a just cause. Sometimes those causes might not be accepted by the government of the day, and sometimes there might even be the carriage of misjustice. And that would just remind me of the story coming out from Australia, where a woman was accused of killing her 4 children and was sentenced to 20 years. She spent 20 years in the prison, only now to be told that there's been some miscarriage of justice. Only the question is, how does she cope? Nnamdi Kanu's case is that he's operating a radio station from London and trying to break up Nigeria. The question is, okay, if Nigeria is not going to break, is Nigeria literally working for every single Nigerians today? Many Nigerians are crying out about justice for Mohbad, but I've been looking into the reason why there's no justice, because it seems already, I don't have the fact, that there are some big men behind the death of Mohbad, but they're trying to pin that onto the layman. Nnamdi Kanu, just before he started his campaign in 2017, also, was at the Nigerian High Commission protesting against the injustice in the northern part of Nigeria sometime around 2012. But it seems that the federal government or some international, bodies or countries, probably looking at the message and probably getting worried. And just almost the same thing, they are getting worried now that it's not just almost the Biafrans anymore. The Yorubas are also now campaigning. And we saw what took place on the 1st of July 2021, when the same government, President Muhammadu Buhari and Yemi Osinbajo, gave the all order to the attack of the home of Dr. Chief Sunday Igboho. 2 people were murdered in there. Many lives were also been affected till date. Many people have become, hypersensitive in that situation. And it seems already Igboho spent 2 years as well locked down in Benin Republic. And we saw what the ECOWAS said, that was wrong against the international law. Let's hope and see if his lawyer or legal team will appeal. But what will be the response again from the Biafra government in exile? Are we going to see more lockdown? And that will be more effect when it comes to the already dead economy of Nigeria that is struggling, to rise.
Now, interestingly, before we run out that conversation, now how does this action by the courts and the inaction by the federal government pertaining to freeing and then listening to people's quest, because you talked about how the Nnamdi Kanu started this campaign, and it's the same thing that Chief Dr. Sunday also started, because he could see that his people were being killed, their properties being destroyed and everything. How does this decision and the action or inaction of the federal government make people who are fighting for a quest of that nature, how does it make them feel? Is it something that you have to go? But at times I do say that there are some things that you can be outside of the country and do it, but if you are inside there, you'll be in trouble, because they will come after you. There's no the same rule of law, but there isn't any rule of law. And miscarriage of justice, that is the order of the day.
Well, let's just go back again to the amnesty and Bola Tinubu. 6 months he's been in office, and already the Amnesty International says that the human right is not there, since this government have been in place. So that shows that many Nigerians are now becoming much aware of the environment. They're becoming much aware, of the injustice, the carriages of injustice. We can go back to so many. Let's talk about the STARR as an example, where innocent Nigerians were, doing nothing more than the fact that, officers were extorting them. They were taking money out of their bank's account, and sometimes they got killed and take their vehicles and sell it off. And that becomes an hashtag for STARR. What led to that? We saw the military going there. As we speak to you today, many Nigerians fled. We can talk about, one of the DJ that is currently now, I believe she's in America. She has to flee for her life because she's now becoming a target, because she was the one, handling most of the coverage that we were watching that previous night. The question is that, the government can live in denial, but one thing is, it will just makes more people interested to see why Nnamdi Kanu has been held, even though, at some point the Yorubas were not really campaigning for the, dissolution of Nigeria. But now we can see that, under the leadership of Professor Banji Akintoye, the question is Nigeria is not going to work as the structure is presently, because that structure had a faulty foundation by the British government, when they were merging, people that speak different languages, doesn't have the same ideology. And it seems that the politicians are just waking up every day. But like they say, you will push the goat close to the wall and the goat will come back for you.
Wow, listeners, it is STARR Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London, bringing the time now to 27 minutes past 11. And it is the Friday edition of the morning show. With me is Mr. Olaimi Koike in North London studios. I'm actually here in the South studios, and we are bringing you everything that you need to know. Because it's posted, put that video behind you. Let's go straight to the next story. That is pertaining to the immigration that is probing the extortion of US-based lecturer. Now, because he's a US-based lecturer, or because he's got the muscle, or because of his stance in the public, definitely he will have the security and the agency trying to investigate it. But what about this, the common Nigerian person who is traveling from Benin, or maybe who has gone to do some business from Ghana and has been maybe do something from there and coming to sell some things or whatever things? The extortion that goes on, the quantum of it. Is that what they're talking about? Or they're just trying to just watch something so that to say, oh yeah, you're doing something for us.
Well, you just asked the ordinary Nigerians that just want to travel, which is meant to be, nothing more than a free travel. Apart from if you're moving with, commodities that is not accepted by the federal government, but you are meant to be able to travel from Benin Republic, to Nigeria without being, literally feeling, a bit of uncomfortable. Many Nigerians have been extorted. Those immigration officers, must now be looked into. The security situation there seems to be the other way around. But you're quite right. Professor Moyo Okedeji is not just an ordinary individual. He has a lot of, people that have now come out and talked about this. And as we say, Nigerian government monitors whatever is happening on the social media and they react quickly. This morning, the immigration is now probing the allegation or the alleged extortion of the US-based lecturer. The Nigerian Immigration Service has said it is now investigating the alleged extortion of the United States-based Nigerian Professor Moyo Okedeji by men of the service, Okedeji, like we said yesterday, not just, $500 was stolen off him. He was almost killed, but saved by the Igbo in Festa. Maybe we'll have been talking about RIP to him today. Okedeji is a professor of art and history at the University of Texas, in America. Also, as his ordeal was now being, gone around the world, and as also we've been talking about it on the Star Radio UK network and many other, platforms around the world, is now, it seems that, the Nigerian immigration has now said that we just have to investigate, and we just hope that it's not just investigate, it's about making sure that these sort of, atrocities that happens on a daily basis, even though when you go to the northern part of Nigeria today, you might as well just say anything goes in that part of the state from the north.
Anything goes. That's it. Well. Listen to Star Radio UK. 11:30 the time. Let me touch on one other story, and then we can move on with what is happening. That pertains to Nigeria seeking U.S. collaboration in fight against terrorism. Now, if you monitor what is happening in the last few months, now we have the French troops who are based in Niger who are living, and a few of them are living. They've been there for ages. They were there to help fight the insurgency, okay? And they had the U.S. having bases there who were also helping in fighting this insurgency. However, the military, the military leadership who are now in charge of those countries are saying that they've not seen any impact from them. So that means that they are there either trying to somehow take something from them or having a base there to flex their muscles, but not actually helping them to fight insurgency. So with Nigeria now saying, okay, you know what, now we want the US to come and help us, come. You think it will bring about any difference? Which we've seen that other nations, nothing of the sort happened. Yeah.
Well, it's good to have a good cordial relationship, especially training experience that especially countries like America, and Europe that have got quite amount of experience when it comes to tackling and dealing with especially security in their own state. But again, Nigeria continue to have bilateral relationship with the United States to fight against terrorism and other security challenges. This is coming from the Minister of the State for Defense, Bello Matawali, that says this during an official visit to the U.S., that Nigeria will become more support to degrade terrorists operating in the country. He also put out a statement. The Defense Ministry issued this yesterday by Ensho Ogubiki, the Director of Press and Public Relations, and it goes like this. The minister met with the Congresswoman Betty McCollum, several members of the U.S. Congress and the United States Capitol. Remember that the U.S. also sold us some certain, military, Apache, but these cannot be used. Some of the fighter jets that were sold cannot be used in part of the Southeast. But we've seen evidence that the federal government under the previous administration have used it, and this might also be against, the dealings. The deal between the American government and the Nigerian government. But yes, having a long-standing friendship between the two countries, and also reaffirming the Nigerians' commitment to eradicating terrorism. The question is easy for the defense, minister to travel down there and say so, when even though Dele Alake just about a few days ago was telling us that those involved in the same terrorism and illegal mining are the same big men in Nigeria.
Okay. We'll tell you more about all that. But listeners, this is STARR Radio UK, and this is the Friday edition of the morning show with me. From our London studios, Mr. Live I'm actually here in the South Studios, and we are bringing you everything that you need to know when it comes to what is happening in Nigeria. Now, I thought that the River State issue has been sorted. We had some people, we were thinking that there could be a by-election or something, but now we have some resignation taking place there as well.
Well, it seems that, when you put in someone that you think is going to work on your behalf, like Wike did, it seems that that is not fighting back. The current situation in Rivers State in the last 24 hours when we left you, remember that yesterday we talked about, the chief judge resigning, but now we are getting more, ministers, also, resigning as well. Former Rivers State Governor to intervene in the state crisis. This is Governor George. River have been put in what we call a political crisis for a few months now, following the impasse between former Governor Nelson Wike, the current Minister for FCT, and his own successor, Sim Fubara. What is the current situation? These are the two faces right there. Wike is the one on the left, and the current governor to the right-hand side. As we say, the river has been in this political crisis while President Bola Tinubu had earlier waded into the matter, just like he did in Ondo State. The political tension in Rivers State has now taken another dimension, but the judge believes that the former governors of the state can prevail on the actors just to shield the sword. I mean, we saw, the budget being presented by 6 and the governor, while the other that have moved to APC were not literally, allowed to. We've seen, the demolition of the State House of Assembly, and the reason for that is because there is what we call, damage to that building. More question again is the River State. Who is behind this? Remember that the Minister for Information came out yesterday and said, well, the government doesn't have any hand in these. So if the government doesn't have any hand in this, who could be behind it? 6 river commissioners have now resigned. The assembly factions hold parallel sittings. You can imagine we now have 2 parallel sitting in one state. Who is going to be affected? They say when two elephant is fighting, the grass suffer, and I believe the citizens will suffer more. 6 commissioners loyal to ex-governor Nelson Wike have now resigned from the cabinet of Governor Fubara.
Well, we are out there to see what is going to happen. Will Wike be able to flex his muscle, still be in the federal capital, and still be able to control what is happening in the River State? Well. Don't start the STARR already, UK. Interestingly, Tinubu should sell Ikoyi prison and other correctional centers to fund education. Now, so what are they trying to say? Is it that they should stop incarcerating people, putting them in prison, and stuff like that? We should release them to send them all up? I mean, I know that Nigeria prisons are congested. Very, very congested.
Not just congested, according to the rep last week, I wish I would probably get that the sound bite for that next week. The dogs are much well fed than the people in the prison.
Oh boy, and that is dangerous. Is it why they think that there's a need for Tinubu to, sell it off to maybe private entities, or they use it to do something else? What is it? What do they really want it to do there?
Well, this is coming from a senior lawyer, Kayode Ajulo, has advocated the sale of some under-utilized coronation centers in the country to fund education. Last October, the constitutional lawyer had urged the federal government to introduce electronic tax for inmates in Nigeria. Well, I'm not too sure how that is going to happen, because if you put in electronic tax with a country that that has inept electricity power, we know that the zeni has such in our leg, and that means the zeni must be at home at certain time from 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. here in the UK until she returns back to court in 2025. Well, while awaiting trial, so the question is, put electronic tax on somebody in Oshodi. And they're probably putting him in his house that doesn't have internet. That is not going to work, But again, Mr. Gilo said this in a letter he wrote to President Bola Tinubu, and he also went further to say that I write on the need to sell some of the coronation centers. I'm getting the feedback coming to me. I write on the need to sell some of the coronation centers in prime areas to raise funds for education in Nigeria. Is that the best way? We sell off coronation center, use it to raise funds. Well, I'm not sure whether many will agree with that, but Ajulo emphasized the pressing need for additional funding to support development of education in the country, but he thinks that selling off some of the coronation centers would be the way to raise such fund.
Well, listeners, do you think selling off correctional centers will do for Nigeria? Maybe we get tax. Maybe Nnamdi doesn't know. Maybe the government have got a special tax that they can do, and they can monitor it from the presidency. Who knows? Nobody can tell us now.
And just to add these, I don't know whether you follow the cabinet resignation in bribery scandal in Japan. Japan is one of the best country in the world, when it comes to tackling corruption. people were, these are money for campaign, but they have the right to keep the money, but they haven't declared. Even someone had to resign because $7,000 was linked to him. Well, they should come to Nigeria and say $6 billion and nothing happened. I mean, you can tell that 4 Japanese ministers tendered their resignation on Thursday over a major corruption scandal in the country ruling party. Most of those under the belt of this present administration, let's talk about Gandude, the Gandola, where he was, stuffing, dollar in the Barbariga, is the APC chairman. He's not going to resign. Let's talk about the same Matawa that went to the, US talking about the defense. In his state, he actually took 50 vehicles that was now being brought back by the new governors. Well, he should probably resign rather than talking about the insecurity. So you can tell that corruption in Africa is not being dealt with properly, and under the belt of this current administration, President Bola Tinubu, corruption is just like a new beginning.
Well, they talk about rule of law. We are in a democratic dispensation, and there's rule of law. But do you think there's a rule of law?
Many people are asking that because I was listening to one of the commentators on Mubarak's case, known as JC Buki, or Big Buki JC. She lives in UK, and she was talking about the same thing that many of us saw. We are no longer in the military era, and when we talk about the rule of law, it must be abide, because Tinubu is not a military man, he's a civilian, and when you are a civilian, there must be a rule of law. But the question is, will there ever be a rule of law in Nigeria? We'll just have to continue to wait and see how he will manage the affair of the most populous black nation in Africa.
Well, we might not know. Maybe there are some military cabal behind the scenes who are controlling and moving things. So, though he's a civilian, yet he will be controlled by the military. We don't know about that. It's just speculation. I'm just talking about that. But listen, let's start already. UK. To every one of you who have tuned in this morning to listen to us, we salute each and every one of you. But let's go back to Yomi for the rest of the stories making the rounds and what is happening on the social media platform. Over to you, sir.
Well, at 85, the former Anambra State Governor Ezi Ife have come to an end of life. We pray for him and the family, but it seems that there is so much surrounding him, because I've been reading from Simon Ekpa, because he believes that this individual disagree with them on Biafra. But again, as they say, not everybody will agree with you in whatever you do. Also, twin brother, 5 others have now been nabbed over alleged internet fraud. We know that there's so much internet fraud. We must continue to say it again and again, especially to most of our listeners, the elderly ones. If someone is calling you and wants you to just say hello, without even mentioning your name, because they don't have your name, all they want to say is that you have a meeting. This meeting is a Yoruba Nation meeting. It's coming up in the next few days, but they're going to send you a code, and you should just give them the code back. Please do not give those codes. If you do so, your WhatsApp will be override. You will not have access to that WhatsApp. You will lose all the contact, and that means you've given away the contact of those that believe that you'll be able to hold that contact to criminals. So many of this is happening in Nigeria. There's so many internet fraud, and we hope that more of them will be picked up and locked up if possible. Well, police is also arranging a businessman alleged for 2.3 million fraud. Kanu governors agreed to pay demolished shop owners 3 billion in compensation. Well, it's easier said than done, but federal government stakeholders collaborate, enhance menstrual hygiene. And we know that is one thing that every female will go through at some point, even here in UK, at those particular time, many girls probably can't make it to school, but also in Nigeria, we've talked about, even those sanitary pads still being charged in terms of high tax on it. Federal government is now, with stakeholders, collaborate to enhance menstrual hygiene. The Federal Ministry of Human Affairs on Thursday collaborate with stakeholders to enhance menstrual hygiene among women and girls. During this national dialogue on menstrual health and hygiene management in Nigeria, they made commitment with the team accelerating effort for eradicating menstrual poverty in Abuja. Well, we've seen many girls, in Africa, in Nigeria, do not have, what it takes to look after themselves during those periods. And sometimes they're using local and clothes. And this is not hygiene as well. And it could become even infection as well. So we hope that, as this is being looked into and talked about, they would also reduce, the cost of, because we don't produce those things in Nigeria. But when people are bringing them in, maybe there should be some tax waiver on it as well. We go straight to the social media at 11:44 this morning, the 15th day. I was listening to you carefully. It's 10 days to Christmas for those that will be celebrating. It's also 9 days before we're going to be celebrating a shoe day. A shoe day will be celebrated across the world. Here in the UK, they'll be celebrating it as well. I've been following a particular platform. They plan to host something from 24th to the 25th. Just as some will be celebrating Christmas, one thing is, we must not fight for religion, but we must save and protect culture and tradition. But Eshu is not the devil that we talk about in the real Nollywood movie that has been portrayed. When people say everything you do, they tend to say is Eshu. Please, I won't do that again, But again, it's now been celebrated across the globe. I'm going to take us to the social media, as many that have been monitoring and following, these Supreme Court probably will have mixed reaction, and I'll be telling you what I can pick up from that Supreme Court ruling. But for now, it is still the STARR Radio UK, the finest African and Caribbean radio station in London, the Friday edition as we go into the weekend. Well, our own Showore says, and I quote that, he was not given access to get into the Supreme Court. Nobody will want him to be there because they know that Supreme Court would not want Showore there. So Showore says, a country where justice is shrouded in secrecy, a country where justice is sacrificed for the unjust, inhumane, despicable, few is never going to be free without a revolution. Hashtag revolution now, hashtag free Nnamdi Kanu now. We know that, Showore believes that without a full revolution in that country, nothing can change. Well, I'm getting a message that the Senate president of Akpabio, fell ill probably after his 61st birthday colloquium in Abuja. He actually collapsed yesterday. While he was at Transcorp Hilton Hotel in Abuja, but was rushed to the hospital. We'll be monitoring that. But again, it shows that there's so much when it comes to Nigeria. But for now, the Supreme Court is trending as much as Naira Marley has now also put a 500 million against Yabojo, for defamation. But 121,000 is what is trending on the Supreme Court. And I think we should pick on that this morning before I come back again to you. As we say, it is now going to be a case between the federal government and Nnamdi Kanu, as the Supreme Court says he would have to go, to defend himself against the charges. This one says I'm not going to read that because it seems not is not going to be good for the platform. Any president or country or leader or race or leader of people who is fighting freedom to get a new country, who was kidnapped, and people who is leading can't find who planned his kidnapper, just know it's people that is working with plans is kidnapping. This is coming from Chidoze. Also, Abra 786, as long as the judicial system blinded their eyes after all evidence shown against Tinubu that he wasn't our satisfied president-elect, then don't expect Nnamdi Kanu will be released. We take two more from there. This one says Biafra is our mandate. And again, we want to know who planned his kidnapping is a question that is also being tread on the platform this morning. Well, also Arewa is trending. Appeal court is trending, but like I said, not much coming out from the government or in exile of the Biafra, but we'll be monitoring that. But again, over 300 comments on a particular platform in one of the mainstream media in Nigeria, and a lot of people are saying, why didn't they put him on trial all these years? This isn't injustice. It is not fair. After how many years in detention, you are not talking of trial, Nigeria and injustice. D says, you want to win this government. What do you people expect? If they want to win, take the case to international court. And the last one, but not the least, I don't understand the judiciary here. Is Kanu stuck? Why won't he face trial with all the atrocity he instigated his people to commit? He must face trial and he must be jailed. And you can tell this is coming from David Oluwaseun. I'll come back to you in the studio.
Well, listen, it's quite an interesting development there. And as the young said, we'll be monitoring every one of them closely. God willing, Monday, when we come back, we'll be able to bring you all that. But once I'm on, if there are any development that I need to put across, I will be doing so. But Akpabio, what happened to him then?
Well, he was celebrating his birthday. He was in Uyo, Akwa Ibom on Saturday. I saw him in the stadium. He was running. He was, jubilating the birthday. But yesterday, I think he was having another, show right inside, the Hilton Cup in Abuja when he slumped and he was rushed to the hospital. And I'm just trying to get what that is. His face there is the current Senate president as we speak right now. As many say, is a rubber stamp, but we hope that it gets better. And right there's another image with him there and the president. I will be monitoring that to see what happened, with him.
Well, we wish him a speedy recovery. Listeners, that's Mr. Olayemi Koike from our North London studios, and he brought you updates from Nigeria. Yeah, before you go.
Well, it is the weekend as we will be monitoring, the event and activities of the weekend from here. But again, may Nigeria not happen to us, just as many that are still planning to go with the Christmas time. You have the right to travel, but please make sure you put in extra vigilance around you because, as we say, we don't want to hear something bad happening to you. But for now, weekend is a beautiful one. I'll be spending mine with my family. I hope you spend yours very good as well. Have a very good morning, Mr. Archie. Bye for now.
Bye-bye. Well, listeners, that has been Mr. Olayemi Koike bringing you all the updates that you need to know when it comes to Nigeria this morning. But now, we're going to be taking a musical break whilst we're having the conversation.
Yeah. Good morning, my people. Now they look me a bit. It go happen soon. Nnamdi Kanu. It go happen soon. Okay, mom, see me. Good morning, ma. It go happen soon. Prepare none. That's all. Must be Moria Lori TikTok. That my brother. It go happen. Tinubu is playing with fire. That's all I'll say. But I am more Yoruba. All I'm just gonna say is that I wasn't expecting the development coming from Abuja. Likewise, I've told many Nigerians that Nigeria is being controlled from outside Nigeria. But Nigerians are very, they want people that, you love your oppressors. And that's one reason that when we say that Nigeria is not controlled from inside Nigeria, oh shit, Nigeria is not literally controlled from Nigeria. It's a lot in control Nigeria. Shafiq pé wọ́n máa fẹ́ kọ́ fi Nnamdi Kanu sílẹ̀. Lẹ́yìn wọn kó tó bá ti fi Nnamdi Kanu sílẹ̀, it becomes a game changer. Many of us knows that. So anytime feel pé Nnamdi Kanu, they will just let him be free like that. They don't want him to be free because the moment it becomes free, it's going to be one hell of a strong movement. But they'll go to court. We see what's going to happen. We'll be monitoring that. Moki our grandma awoni. But our mo Yoruba, ẹ̀gbọ́n kan tí yẹn sọ, ọmọ Yorùbá kan, mo mọ̀ ká comment yẹn jáde lẹ́ǹkan. Ẹ̀wọ̀n tó sọ, mo tẹ̀tí close ẹ̀. Mo mọ̀ pé ẹ̀ ń feel pé torí Tinubu wà níbẹ̀. Nnamdi Kanu. I'm going to speak in English because we have a lot of audience this morning. So let me try and speak, the current language that everybody will pick on. I was highly disappointed from the outcome of the court this morning. Very, very disappointed. And the reason why is because the current president would have brought in a bit of stability. At least doesn't mean that things can break away straight away, but it would have created Forget about Awujale for now. I'm sorry, Nnamdi Kanu. Tinubu, okay, Emare Awujale fún yàn kan ní award àbí ní kíní. Ibi ìlú ṣì ń dúró lẹ́sìn sọ pé fún yàn kan award. A ní ẹ farabalẹ̀ ká gbọ́n nǹkan tá à ń sọ náà. Must be. Ibi ìlú ń ṣiṣẹ́ lẹ́sìn sọ pé Awujale fẹ́ fún yàn ní award. Tí ìlú ò bá gbádùn báwo la Awujale ṣe fẹ́ fún yàn kankan award. Àbí ó fẹ́ fún yàn joyè. What is going to happen moving forward is because I don't know what the Biafra government in exile are going to do. I don't know. They were waiting for these, yeah, I mean, that's the title at award. It doesn't matter. When there's a country, you can give title to somebody. But when there's not a country, nobody can give any title. So, but my direction is to many Yoruba people. For you, you think that Nnamdi Kanu has done something wrong in your mind. You think Nnamdi Kanu has done something wrong. So that means Nnamdi Kanu should face the consequence of whatever he has done. That's fine. There's nothing wrong in that, if that is what some of us feel. But many of us should also have it at the back of our mind that we cannot stop a moving train like the Biafra. You cannot stop it. It cannot be stopped. The Biafrans would do whatever they feel is needed, whatever, without going into too much details. I foresee as we go into the new year, there will be some more changes. With this, their own campaign. I just pray that Nnamdi Kanu will still be able to hold on, even though his health is becoming very, very bad. I just hope he doesn't die inside that prison. The chances that there's not going to be war in Nigeria is very, very slim. Very, very slim. Many of us knows that. The chances is very, very slim. The politicians are playing with our lives, especially with the situation of federal government versus Nnamdi Kanu. These politicians are playing with our lives. What is this offense? I mean, I want somebody to let me understand what is the offense of Nnamdi Kanu? What is his offense? He says, I don't want to be a Nigerian. He's telling his people, some will agree with him, some doesn't want to agree with him. Some might say, Nnamdi Kanu, no, we don't want to leave Nigeria, we want to be Nigerian. So what is his own offense? What is his offense? I mean, is it not the same thing that the Scottish people are campaigning for? Because from what I read from the Scottish people is that they want to exit, the union between, this country called Great Britain. And I don't think it is wrong. However, whatever more, they said Nnamdi Kanu brought in some, I mean, that's probably maybe what I read. I don't know, maybe there's more. They said he brought in some transmission radio. He wanted to set up a transition radio to broadcast his campaign. So, because Nnamdi Kanu says they want Biafra, and some politicians think that, no, we are not going to give you Biafra. We will all stick and remain as Nigerians. And for that reason, he was arrested. I'm just trying to go back to prior before his kidnap and rendition. He was arrested. He was granted bail. He was still doing his little things where he was based. He was talking to people. I mean, still telling them about reason why they should all look into his own reason why they should have a independent Biafra nation. Definitely not all Igbo people will support it. Neither would all Yorubas or different ethnic groups will support it. Then Buhari, dead or alive, the sadist, Buhari decided that the best thing to do is to take the python dance to Nnamdi Kanu in 2017. So let us take ourselves back. Let me see what happened in 2017, because that was the beginning of why Nnamdi Kanu never had intention to leave Nigeria, just like Igboho never had intention to leave Nigeria. If Igboho house was not attacked, Dr. Sunday Igboho will still be in Nigeria, and we will still probably be doing our activities of our campaign. I'm sure everybody agrees with that. But let's not go for that first. Let's go back to Nnamdi Kanu. Let me take us back, see if I can pick up anything. Nnamdi Kanu, 2017 attack. Okay, let's read this from Vanguard. I'll read from Vanguard. I will read from Sahara Reporter so that we can balance it. So let's speak from the Vanguard to see what, so that because some of us have lost track of what literally happened. Kilo Shele Gongon. Why was Nnamdi Kanu, out of Nigeria? Because Nnamdi Kanu had no intention of leaving Nigeria. He was there to fight his case between the federal government and Nigeria. The same case that they're talking now today from the Supreme Court is what Nnamdi Kanu wanted to fight in 2017. But something happened, and he had no option than to run away for his life. And like they always say, there's always another day. So sometimes you might not fight it, in one day. You have to come back and fight it another day. Wani mojamosa lafimo akikonju tiko toba moja toba le move there. There's tendency that we're bogun law. So let's read this a little bit. 5 people fell dead as suspected soldiers. Did you hear that word? Suspected soldiers attacked Nnamdi Kanu's home. Remember that it was the same thing that happened with Sunday Igboho, our own leader. If Lady K has not gone live, let me remind us, before the attack on July 1st, we had military that came to the house. I was still there. I went live. I reported it as they were shooting sporadically. I'm sure many of you witnessed and saw that, broadcast. That was before the July 1st. When they realized that, they could not gain access to the house, they went back. Maybe that is when they started planning more to say that, okay, it seems that we cannot have access to it today. We will come back. Let's leave that. I'll come back to that later. Let's take us back to 2017 now. Aqua, the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, said on Sunday night that 5 people were feared dead and about 30 others injured when gunmen suspected to be soldiers allegedly attacked the country home of the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. IPOB Media and Publicity Secretary, Comrade Emma Powerful, told Vanguard that the attackers wore army and police uniforms, drove into the palace of the traditional ruler of Afaruku, who is the father of Nnamdi Kanu, and started shooting people. This was the same thing that the government did with Igboho, that led to Igboho out of Nigeria. So, if they have killed Nnamdi Kanu in 2017, who knows what would have been the outcome? But Nnamdi Kanu, rather than allowing himself to be killed inside his home, we saw that he fled. Let me remind us, because the Yorubas that are trying to play this catch and game that, in Nnamdi Kanu's case can just be thrown aside. Let me remind you, Bola Tinubu also fought during the military after the 1993. I'm just giving us a recollection. Do you remember that the reason why he fled out of Nigeria as well, because he could have stayed in Nigeria and allowed himself to have been killed. But Bola Tinubu was smart. He never wanted to be killed, so he also did what they say, Mojamosa, Lafi Mwake Konju. Bola Tinubu fled the country in I don't know exactly when he fled, but he fled just after, the evil genius known as Babangida. He would die in that wheelchair without, standing up again for the rest of his life. Babangida would never stand up again. He will remain in that wheelchair for a very long time. He's not going to die anytime soon. He will be shitting himself in his body, but he will eventually die because the Yoruba people will go, the Biafra will go, the Arewa will go. What he did in 1993 is still some of the reasons why there's a lot of so much issue in that contraction. So when some of you today are now saying because Tinubu is now in government, but Tinubu did the same thing that Nnamdi Kanu did. The only difference is that he also did not stay for him to be killed. Tinubu fled Nigeria in the 90s. He was here in UK for almost 4 years until Abacha died and he returned back. So if Tinubu thinks that he's not the president and he doesn't want to look into the matter on his desk, which is the most important matter, all this Nigerian economy and this security, look, the real matter on the desk of Tinubu is to be discussing with Nigerians how we want to move the country forward. Talking about security, economy, welfare, stabilizing the country, it's all going to be like he's wasting his energy. Because the real issue on the desk of many Nigerians today is that whether we want to live together or not. Tinubu can say he's now the president, but he also told us with evidence that he does not believe in Nigeria, because as at the time, he was also running away for his life. Tinubu ran out of Nigeria so that he doesn't get killed. Even as at that time, they set up the Radio Kudirat. I'm sure many of us, in the Southwest will remember Radio Kudirat that was operating. Fayemi was behind it as well. Many of these new, politicians that are now making themselves look like they were also activists. They were also fighting for the cause of what led to the annulment of the election of the late Chief M.K. Abiola. So today now, they might be in power, in that corridor of power, and living in denial that everything, should be that nobody should speak again. We should all just remain mute. Tinubu has no right to tell us to remain mute because he was not muted when the rest of the former military were operating and doing whatever they want to do. They disagree with them. And that is what gave Tinubu the upper edge in the current dispensation of this present, political that they are doing from 1999, because people saw Tinubu as someone that fought for democracy. So the difference between Tinubu and Nnamdi Kanu is that Nnamdi Kanu is not fighting for democracy anymore. He's fighting for the future of his people, just as Tinubu was fighting for the future of Nigerians as at the time. My question again is, as you say that you want to take him to the court to become used for whatever reason, but if Buhari and Osibajo, the shortman devil, have not attempted to take real soldiers, but none call them unknown soldier in 2017, maybe by now we would have completed the case of Nnamdi Kanu at the Federal High Court. There's nothing wrong, Nnamdi Kanu was ready, he was prepared, to appear at the court. He was given a bail condition. He agreed with that bail condition and he was kept in that distance. But something was still not comfortable with the northern part of Nigeria. The northern part of Nigeria were not comfortable, including some individuals within the other region, and that is why they gave the all clear. The question we should be asking is, was the reason the attack on Nnamdi Kanu, was this something from outside the country or within the country? Do we have countries outside that were pushing that maybe we should attack and kill Nnamdi Kanu, and if you kill him, the whole Biafra agitation would die? I'm talking about in 2017 now. I'm just taking us back to what led to the reason why Nnamdi Kanu fled Nigeria. And the first thing that he did was he went quiet for a very long time. Nobody knew where he was. Only probably few certain people knew where he was. The first time I was going to be saying Nnamdi Kanu was he literally appeared in Israel. I'm sure some of us remember that video. He was praying, in Israel, and everybody said, "Oh wow, I think that was almost like a year." But let's go back again to 2017. So unknown soldiers went to his house, but there's nothing called unknown soldiers. These are Nigerian military ordered by Buhari, Osibajo, and whoever to kill Nnamdi Kanu. If they've not gone to his home in 2017, by now there will have been a court decision, or maybe they are still pushing it. So rather now, they are now saying, no. The reason why we're going to allow Nnamdi Kanu, well, he has been in court already. Nnamdi Kanu did not appear. That's what we're discussing. Nnamdi Kanu is going to be tried. That's what we are discussing. If you're just joining us, Nnamdi Kanu will be tried. That is what the Supreme Court is saying. The Supreme Court, and let me just read that again because it seems that I know in Nigeria and people are busy around the world, so sometimes people are not following what is happening, but as a media, this is what we do to make sure you are up to date. So this is coming from Channels Television. The Supreme Court insists that Nnamdi Kanu must face trial. I am now taking you back 2017. The same trial that he is going to be tried for is why, the same trial that they're talking today is from 2017. So if Buhari and Osibajo, the Sultan of Sokoto, whoever was behind, go and attack his house in 2017, this case would have been finalized. But rather, Nnamdi Kanu fled. Fair enough. Nobody sit back and allow yourself to be killed when you can escape. Tinubu did not want to die. He actually did the same thing. In the 90s, he escaped. And I'm sure he will be able to tell you how he did escape. But he ended up in London for 4 years. Tinubu was still campaigning, pushing for the better democracy in Nigeria under a proper civilian, not military. They were fighting. They were using radio. I mean, we don't have this kind of technology today. The reason why we are well connected today is because Tinubu and the Nadeco never had the same opportunity. Nadeco, there's still some of them in America. There's so many of them in Nigeria. Some of them have died. But they were also fighting for a just cause. As at that time, that was when even, Iba Gani Adams today, as at that time, he was just an ordinary OPC man. They were all detained. Some of them were killed. We saw how Obasanjo even eventually led to many deaths of OPC. I'm just telling you that, it seems that we are all just living in denial because we are kind of moving what should be ending today. We are pushing it to the next day. We are pushing it to the next day until everything is going to come back. And then some people will watch some of these videos and they'll say, but these guys were talking about it. How come the real politicians that should discuss it did not discuss it? Some of them will die along the line. Some of them are very old. Some of them are still talking about, oh, let's restructure this country. Let's put it back to the regional government. But it seems that there's just these deaf ears. Nobody wants to listen. So today, the Supreme Court insists that Nnamdi Kanu must face trial. There's no problem. But they should have allowed this trial to go ahead if the federal government have not invaded his house in 2017, which is what I was reading earlier, because what I was reading earlier is coming from what took place in 2017, and it's still right there. You just type in Vanguard. So a statement, we did not clash with anybody or group. The attackers wore Nigerian soldiers, Nigerian police uniform, and they came to kill our leader. Hear that word. It was a clear case of go there and eliminate him. Just the same thing they wanted to do with, Chief Igboho, Oloye Igboho. Get to his house, make sure that they confirmed Igboho was in the house. They saw Igboho from the view that is in the house, and they make sure that they will get in. By all means, they will kill Igboho, they will kill everyone in that house, and we would have woke up the next morning and they will say, oh, federal government is not aware. We never sent anybody to Igboho's house. So it's just people that wear Nigerian uniform, the unknown soldier, just like the unknown soldier went to kill Fela Nicola Kukuti's mother. So Nigerians are just thinking that, oh, Nnamdi Kanu case will be something that we can all just brush aside as if it has not happened. We must not live in denial. The case of Nnamdi Kanu and the federal government is just the beginning of good things that will bring down Nigeria in the long run. You will not. Yeah, Bola Tinubu fled to London in 1994 on exile. Thank you so much for that update. Bola Tinubu fled in 1994 until he returned back after the death of Abacha. Kí ló dé tó náà dúró sí Nigeria and fight it? You can see why some of you that are supporting him today, you have the right to support him. But the same thing he fought for is almost what Nnamdi Kanu is fighting for, and Nnamdi Kanu is fighting from a different angle. Good afternoon to everyone that have joined us. It's just 12:15. My name is Olami Koiki. So these are just the development happening in 21st century. While we are much more moving faster, as even though as at the time, the NADECO were not as, they didn't have this kind of communication line. But what they did have was they had the radio Kudirat. The radio Kudirat was used to pass message to the Yoruba people to resist the military time or the military regime of, the late Sani Abacha, another evil monster. So if anybody is supporting, this is what I want us to understand now. If you're there supporting that Nnamdi Kanu should be castigated, should be thrown into the dungeon, should even be killed, and you are a Yoruba man, maybe if they've killed Tinubu in the 90s, you will not come out today and be talking like that. There will not be Jagaban. Did you hear what I said? If Tinubu has been killed in the 90s by Abacha with his firing squad team, Ali Mustafa and the rest of them, just like they killed Elijah Kudirat Abiola, Tinubu was on the target. He would have been killed, and we would not have got Tinubu as a president today. So Tinubu must be reminded. Tinubu must be reminded that history is just going to pass if he does nothing, especially with the issue on the ground in Nigeria. Nigeria has gone past something that we should be playing about. Tinubu returned back to Nigeria in 1998 after Abacha died. This is not the time for us to be joking. There is a crisis brewing in Nigeria. The politicians and the citizens must all be allowed to sit and talk about it. We cannot brush it aside. Tinubu only returned back after Abacha died. He cannot even return to Nigeria while Abacha was there. He was operating with the NADECO team from abroad. He was living in Milton Keynes. People have told me Tinubu lives in Milton Keynes as at the time. My question again is, do you think that the way things are going right now, we are all safe. It might not happen in the next 3 years. I'm suspecting something that Tinubu is planning to do. I don't know. He might just want to play around with Nnamdi Kanu until he hand over the power back to the North. I just hope. Because we know that the case in Nigeria doesn't go like, abroad. They say we'll be returning back to court November 25. I bet my life that case will not last 6 months. But they've given a time frame because the court is so busy in UK. That is why they've moved the case to 2025. We saw how, Ike Kirimadu, within under 6 months, the case of Ike Kirimadu was done and dusty, and they lock him up. We lock him up. We throw the key for now until we review it again. My question is, even if the federal government believe that Nnamdi Kanu has committed an offense, anywhere in the world, if you commit an offense, the government have the right to call you to court. But do you can put in the comment section, do you think that this case will be fair? And do you think that there will be justice served in a very quick timing? Because we are now in 2023, which is gone. 2023 is completely gone. That means we now have 3 years of Tinubu's government. Would Tinubu government play around? Because Nnamdi Kanu is now fighting the federal government, which is the Tinubu's government. So this case is between Bola Tinubu and Nnamdi Kanu, because Tinubu is the federal government. Nnamdi Kanu is the Biafra. My question is, do you think, or do we think, that this case will be handled and will be allowed to go through without interference, with all evidence presented by his legal team and the prosecutor from the federal government, and allow justice to be served? Because Bola Tinubu is enjoying the same thing that he fought for. So one day, whether you like it or not, Nnamdi Kanu will be alive to enjoy the fruits of his labor. Let me repeat that again. The case of Nnamdi Kanu, it would enjoy the fruit because a Biafra country will come in his lifetime. Just as Tinubu wanted to be the president, he did everything. He paid money, spiritually, bribe people, pressurize people, even kill people. I might not have evidence. Oh yes, I'm sure we all know this. But he ended up becoming the president by saying Emilio Con. So if anyone thinks that Biafra issue, we will just say because we don't like them, we are not going to agree with them. Oh yes, the military never agreed with Tinubu. Now that's why he ran out of Nigeria. The military never agreed with Tinubu. That is why he ran out of Nigeria. But in the long run, we saw what has now played. And what has played back is that this Tinubu is enjoying what people will say is sweat. So if anybody is saying that Tinubu to jèrè anything that is enjoying, oh yes, Nadeko would have used armed struggle. So this one that you're saying that Nadeko used armed struggle during Nadeko, how many police stations Nadeko burned? Well, how old are you, if I may ask you? I want you to put your age there so that I can know how I'm going to respond to that. Normally, I don't even read comments, but I just love the comment that you picked up because we're not in the military era and we're in the civilian and the open space. So you're saying that if Nadeko was burning police station, there will always be different era, okay? The time that Nadeko was fighting, go and ask how many people fought on the street of Lagos that Nadeko will have funded. Go and check how many people had the same rifle that were used to fight back. So when some of you come and say, well, you know, Nadeko was not burning police station. So are you saying that it's the Biafra that is burning police station? So, and if they're burning police station, then why not all come on the round table and let us discuss this issue so that they don't burn more police station? So when we come and ask question, you know, yeah, I mean, well, okay, I agree. I mean, yes, that is the reason why we're saying that if we look, I don't want a situation where Nigeria, look, the way Nigeria is going now, it will fall into the anarchy stage. That is our concern. Well, for me, I pray that anything goes so that we can get out of the country. But in reality, again, because we are human beings, people will die. You know, look, I see what is happening in the Middle East. I've seen children, you know, people killed and all that. But at the end of the day, that is the world we're living today. I was watching the United Nations. I love to listen to them all the time. You know, they were deliberating yesterday, and let's see if I can bring that in just for us to get a bit of understanding. You know, I don't normally want to talk about what is happening in the Middle East because it is just too very, very complex. But in Nigeria today, the reason why we are shouting every day is because we don't want it to get to the anarchy stage where it will now become boom. But if anybody's thinking that United Nations is coming to help Nigeria, they cannot even help the current situation in Middle East. And I'm not joking. So for you to know I'm not joking, let me play something I was listening to on the United Nations yesterday. Very interesting. Hey, that's it now. It's about, let me let this advert go. Okay, was it on Al Jazeera Mutingo? Okay, I didn't even realize it was on Al Jazeera. Let me see. Okay, it was literally probably maybe because the Christmas tree is blocking the view. So Kujekin Makwe Al Jazeera Mutingo. Because I was just listening to it after, I don't know what I was watching. Okay, I watched Vantage. I love to watch Vantage News at 4 o'clock. So from there, it automatically. I'm going to play this now while I'm going to go do my tea because, that's what we drink too much in this country. I wanted to end the broadcast, but I thought we just let it go because that way we're enjoying it. We still have good battery cell on all the phones. The ones that doesn't have, I'll probably see if I can adjust it. This question is coming from Al Jazeera, excuse me, and this is about how many hours ago now? 18 hours ago. I can share the link if you want me to. Can the United Nations do anything to stop the Israel war on Gaza? Did you hear the question? Can the United Nations also stop the Biafra from activating? From what we're all saying, it looks like it's a movie. I mean, I'm sure you all see Simon Ekpa. Some of us are thinking that maybe it's a movie script. They're setting up offices. They have the government in exile. They are doing things. You know, some of us are like, make that they play. The federal government will deal with them. I'm sure some Nigerians are like that. Do you think that when the Kasala burst, United Nations is coming to do anything? No, United Nations is not coming to do anything because they can't do anything even in the war that is currently played in Israel and Gaza. United Nations is completely not able to, to stop it. America vetoes ceasefire. The UK is doing the same thing. So it's more like some of us don't understand that what Simon Ekpa and their team are doing is trying to say to the government, let us deliberate on this issue. Look, holding Nnamdi Kanu and say he's going on a fair trial. Okay, let him continue with fair trial. But there will still be the instability in the Southeast until discussion on the roundtable happens. Like I said, nobody wants to see another second civil war in Nigeria. But in the way that things are going, okay, some might say that, but Koiki, do you expect Tinubu to intervene? Oh, yes, he can. He can. He can for the peace to reign to start with. He can. Tinubu is the president now. He can give a presidential order. He can. Tinubu can give a presidential order on the case of Nnamdi Kanu. And like I said, you can even tell him to go on exile. In the plane, you escort him to the plane and let him go. That will first bring the stability in the Southeast. But what we are going to see now is that there'll be more stringent between the Biafra and the federal government. And if anybody is thinking that by the time it goes into more crisis, because what we are saying, in the war going on in Gaza and Israel, Russia and Putin, oh my God. How many of you have watched? I've not watched the full clip. I just watched the snip. Putin with 4 hours interview he granted. He does that every year, but he didn't do that last year. How many people watched it? Or how many people have saw the story? Can Tinubu do that for us? President Tinubu, can you sit down and we can have 4 hours interview? Questions, different questions, people phoning, people calling, people, and no script. Can Tinubu do that? I'm asking those of you that are in support of this government. Maybe not now, maybe next year. Can Tinubu come and give us a 4 hours unscripted interview? We will ask him all kind of questions. Yes or no? Will he do that? Maybe you should go and see Putin. Putin does that every year. Mr. Femi Kasale say he can't even do 10 minutes unscripted. 4 hours. Among Putin, he get as a B. They will ask him all kind of questions. 4 hours, non-stop. The world is an interesting place. So during the Nadeco, they will work with what they have based on what they know and what they can do to pull down the military time. Based on the new era, we will do what we can to pull down Nigeria, depending on what we feel and how we feel. But to avoid a lot of different crises, Mukenyi Alajawa, Alaja Mukenyi Babawa, Salam Alaikum and Barika Jimo, Mukibubo, Muslim Kakiri, Kolon Kojeki, Atuma Shopolokwe, Awatan Christmas, no Abawalaye, Awatan Issue Day, Abawalaye, 3-1 Lemission Temi, Imimoti War. I'm 40 plus, nobody can deceive me and tell me bodies found in a sack. Hey, what is your kuyayen? Oh my God. Sky News. That's Sky News. They found the body. It's gone. She's gone rather. Sure. Breaking news. There might be no divert there. That's the paper this morning. There was a woman that got she depression. There's a lot going on around the world. Sorry that I had to digress a little bit. So this woman, I guess she's the one. I'm going to type her name now. I guess she's the one. Gino. She left work in a hurry, and police searching river for mother. Body found. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, 2 minutes ago. Independent. Utterly body in. Yeah, utterly. Gaynor Lord latest body found in a river in search for a missing Norwich mother. We won't go through depression. I think the Biafrans are killing each other, not other regions. That is fine. Federal government position, my opinion. Oh, yes, there's nothing wrong if they're killing themselves, but eventually it will have impact on the rest of us in the long run. If we say that they are killing themselves and we should just avoid them, don't go that region. But eventually the federal government doesn't want that. The federal government will continue to hammer them and this will explode. But can we really say all Igbo leaders are in support? No, definitely not. Not all Igbos are in support of Biafra struggle. Not all Yorubas are in support of Yoruba struggle. That is life. This is where, open dialogue. Sherry, trying to avoid open dialogue will be creating much more problem. Like I said, even if let me first, because it's a dead person, let's quickly complete this. So this woman, I actually read it in the paper. She left work, and she went to the park. They saw her belongings, and now they confirmed that they found the body. Underwater search. This is why we are saying that in Nigeria, look, there's too many crimes. This is why some of us cannot live in Nigeria for a very long time, because we have lived in a society where when things happen, we want people to react quickly, not just media talk. This is the difference between this. As at this morning, paper late in a Friday, police hunting missing gainer call on detectives in a tragic Nicola case. There was another case similar to our own that we have blamed the police for not doing something quickly. So this time around, even in the -0, the temperature, one loss me, I want to read that bit out. They found the body now already. Call on phone, okay. Nobody knows what happened. Maybe she went into depression, but even in the minus freezing water, around police underwater lele. It has so bad in Nigeria near Tari. Can see them. Iṣẹ́ tó ń ṣe nìyẹn, owó tó ń san fún wọn nìyẹn. Now what ìlú òkú yẹn nísìn. Ṣé mọ̀ pé nígbà EndSARS ó yẹ káwọn ọlọ́pàá bẹ́ sábẹ́ omi kọ́ lọ wá àwọn èèyàn bí àwọn èèyàn jábọ́ síbẹ̀ bí àwọ̀ jábọ́ síbẹ̀, Anyway, I just pity many Nigerians that think that in Tawaman Soniba, mo kàn fẹ́ capital is up with the temperature. Báwọn láti abandon it, but now they have to still continue, but now they found the body. Police searching for the missing mother have consulted colleagues involved in the high-profile hunt for Nicola Burley because of a parallel between the cases. Dog walker Nicola, ó kọ lọ síbi omi ni, and ọlọ́pàá case they didn't do it properly, so eventually, we all reacted and the police have apologized. So now they have to call the people from the other, this is why they say in Nigeria there's no independent police. Autonomy, because there is no state police. So the Norwich are now inviting another police from another branch to come and help them solve the case of this woman that they found the body now. So divers were yesterday in Asatano searching the West Zone, but the Norfolk Constabulary, just as we should have Ogun State Police on their own, independent, away from Abuja. I hope Tinubu will be able to do that. I don't know. Because as it is right now, we don't have an independent police in Nigeria. State police, I want to say, not independent. So, but the Norfolk Constabulary said that they were struggling with the water temperature of just 4 degrees and a visibility range beneath the surface of as little as 1 feet. But they cannot give up. Even the person who don't die, or where they don't know whether he died, they are making sure that they can find justice for it. The question is, everybody in the case in Mohbad, look at the way they are doing the Mohbad case. I pray you get justice for it. So let's see what is happening here. Okay, Mohbad.
And at the time, then my phone was ringing, and it was a client, and I wanted to take the call. I had to take the call, so I just said to Gaynor, "Sorry, the phone's ringing, and can I call you back in about 2 minutes?" And she said yes. Around about 2 minutes later, I rang her back. Again,
let's check on our loved ones. There's a lot of depression going on in Nigeria today. There was another 17-year-old boy that went missing, like in 2017. He got missing in Spain, but they found him in France. Missing boy Alex has been found after so many years. Again, the news here that major search for the missing woman who didn't come home from work as the jewelry were found by the river bank. She's now, they've now found the body, and we pray for the family and the loved ones that she left behind. Body found in the river search, and this is the police speaking right now.
Yes. What is your message to anybody, somebody who might have any information about where Gaynor is?
Well, we've had 30 members of the public come forward so far as a result of all the work and press that we've put out.
So it's only TikTok, you might be saying that and listen.
may be to call into the police and tell us what you know, because every piece of information will help.
Well, okay, let's come back to our own discussion. I was going to play something from the United Nations earlier, while I say I wanted to go and do, a bit of tea. So somebody said we have Amotekun in the Southwest. What is the influence of Amotekun? They are as useless as nothing because they're not allowed to do and function to go after the terrorists. Amotekun must be able to go after the terrorists. There's a couple of people that are doing their birthday today, even though they want me to bring them on and speak. I guess we should have one probably later. One is in Benin Republic and one is in Nigeria. So Moki, happy birthday. And the rest of those that are celebrating their birthday in the month of December, happy birthday. And those of us that are looking forward to Christmas and Eshu Day, I say congratulations in advance. So let's just take a snip of Al Jazeera. Can the United Nations do anything between the Biafra and the federal government? I don't think so. Until it goes into a full escalation. Babatunde said, in Nigeria, I only see police kidnapping citizens and requesting for ransom. Well, how much money will keep Jagaban alive for another 100 years? Well, that's impossible. So if anyone is thinking that we're not here, we don't hate Tinubu, but what we are saying is that he has what it takes now to at least intervene in the case of Nnamdi Kanu for now, even if it's just to stabilize the peace that everybody's looking for. It doesn't have to say that Uma accepting Cotton so let's say, but just thinking that they can brush it aside, I don't know. Listen to this while I come back in just about a few minutes. And this was the voting in favor 153, against 10, abstention 23. When the case between the federal government and Biafra gets hit up that the Security Council will be sitting on this case, and there will be some country that will favor, and there will be some country that will be absentees, and there will be some country that will be against. That is the world that we are living today. There will be countries that will support, and there will be some that will not support. So I'm just going to play a little bit of it, end the program, probably come back later when we do a full program, because I got to go now. But I just want us to listen to this for a few minutes.
Hundreds of people will be killed by this time tomorrow. Then hundreds more, and then thousands.
That's Riyad Mansour, the Palestinian envoy to the UN at the UN Security Council on Friday. The council had just voted on a ceasefire in the war on Gaza. And as Mansour spoke, the US Deputy UN Ambassador, Robert Wood, was looking down at his phone.
Like scrolling through his phone. It just sort of shows how this has almost become routine.
The ceasefire failed to pass, and the US was the only veto.
We still cannot comprehend why the resolution's authors declined to include language condemning Hamas's horrific terrorist attack on Israel on October 7.
Friday's vote was one of the latest attempts from the United Nations to broker a lasting ceasefire. So how is that stalemate playing out in the halls of the UN? And what does that mean for the organization's credibility? I'm Malika Bilal, and this is The Tape.
My name is Gabriel Elizondo, and I am a New York-based correspondent for Al Jazeera English.
So Gabriel, diplomats at the UN have pulled out some rarely seen tools in their toolbox to broker a truce in this war on Gaza. And that includes their latest resolution, something called 377A.
The United Nations General Assembly has voted overwhelmingly for immediate humanitarian ceasefire in Gaza.
The result of the vote is as follows: 153 in favor.
Can you walk me through it?
Again.
Is there a chance that this could do anything to end the war?
Well, I would love to give you an answer saying yes. I would love to be able to go into a long discussion about all the ways that this General Assembly resolution could end the suffering, end the war, But really, this is probably the easiest question you'll ask me because it's a one-word answer. The answer is no. Unfortunately, the UN General Assembly resolutions are not legally binding, and so they can be ignored without any sort of repercussions. But it still means that the General Assembly resolutions are important because they're sort of like a referendum on the world.
So I don't want to play too much.
So in that way, they're politically important.
So I just want us to get the feel. I'm going to play the last part of Nnamdi Kanu's again that we played yesterday, and then we're going to start wrapping up. But one thing I can understand it, sitting on the round table, discussing issues is not something we should be scared of. We should continue to propagate for peace. Nobody wants violence, but if peace is not going to happen, then you are actually pushing for a violence. And sometimes it might not be the taste of many people, but one thing is, if we want peace to reign, you must always give the opportunity for that. So the interview that was, again, I'm about to play now, was something that Nnamdi Kanu granted Channels Television 6 years ago. I'm going to allow the whole thing to go through while I'm just sipping my tea. Nnamdi Kanu, we might not agree with what he wants, but we must also accept that that is the new world that we are living. If some people say and rise up and say, well, the unity that we think that is working for us doesn't seem to be working, then we must do something around it. So let me play that. Once again, appreciation to many of you that have joined us and those of you that will be watching it later, from Babawa Alano, Professor Banja Kitoye. We appreciate you for waking our minds out of Nigeria. Also, appreciation to many people. I think Bishop Adesina sent something that he wanted to give the first 10 people. I'm going to have to work on that. Some money, Ruba, equivalent to about 7,000 Naira, but it's going to be in your Ruba. So you have to open a Ruba account. Probably maybe we'll have to do that if I come back, if otherwise we see. But I say shout out to many of you that are listening. Those of you on the MixLR, Ogumola Biodun, my very good brother, says, let them continue to hold him as Nnamdi Kanu. Nigerian government don't miss road already. Allow Baba say, what is happening in Rivers State show that Nigeria is not meant for us. As I speak to you today, there's 2 parallel governments in Rivers State. I don't know how they want to operate that state. It just shows that there's so much tension in Nigeria. Moki, Momsimi Moki, our great solution to Paris, and the rest of you, if I won't mention your name, I'll try and do so later. I gotta go back to my water boy. So listen to Nnamdi Kanu right now. We pray again for our uncle that he didn't die in Nigeria. I'm talking about Professor Moyo. Look at movie picture and see. I think they want to print one out. It seems that the federal government or the immigration or whatever, they are now quickly responding to, after our cry out. We all cried out for him. I don't know whether his picture is. No, later. All right, let's listen to Nnamdi Kanu for the next 6 minutes.
It means freedom, liberty, fairness, equity.
That was the one I'm looking for.
In practical terms, these are very good sounding words, but in practical terms, what does Biafra mean?
Confederation.
So, a weak center,
Very weak.
very strong regions.
Absolutely.
Have you had a change of mind, therefore, about getting an independent Biafra? Because that's what I seem to be hearing.
No, I'm not changing my mind. And independent Biafra means going back to where we were before the one man came.
Okay, so you're not talking about a federation when you say a confederation. You're not talking about a federation as part of Nigeria. You're talking about total independence.
Absolutely.
Independence. Now, is there anything that can happen that will make you change your mind about this particular direction?
No.
So it is either Biafra or nothing else. Or death.
That's good.
If push comes to shove, will you go to war?
No, because truth is a far more potent and deadlier weapon than bullets.
So no war. You ruled out war.
No.
when I say Biafra order, then I'll keep pushing. Either I am alive, I die in the process, I won't stop. Allow me to repeat, if you don't mind. Had sovereign national conference been convened by the powers that be, where every ethnic national, I said every, I don't care if there's 600, I don't care. Everyone,
all the 500
everyone together to say, this is all, others can delegate, I don't know, powers to other people to attend on that behalf. Sit down to say, what type of country do we want? Sit down, discuss.
I did say that yesterday. Good morning, sir, or good afternoon. What kind of country do we want? Once again, we appreciate God in his mercy for saving this, our uncle yesterday, or on the 12th. He will have been a dead man. Let's hope the immigration will investigate. What kind of country do we want? Nnamdi Kanu is asking. And he also say, even if death happen, Biafra will still happen. So we're just pushing what should be discussed for another day.
Sit down to say, what type of country do we want? Sit down, discuss, agree. I can begin to perhaps submit.
Is it too late?
It is way too late. They've killed too many people. They've ruined too many lives. They've wasted too many souls. How do we bring those people back?
If the federal government, given the agitation that is going on, becomes convinced that, you know what, these people have a point, and it is time to actually...
Sherry, this is how we should be doing the campaign. Journalists will come to Igbowo from Channels Television, TVC, Arise. They will ask questions. This is how they're doing it in Scotland. Nobody's chasing anybody in Scotland because you want to exit UK. This, you see what Channels did now. If they've not attacking Nnamdi Kanu, and that they even allow us to have our radio, which I can confirm before I go right now that the Yoruba radio, the unit, is presently now in Nigeria. I've been debriefed yesterday, and probably when I come back, we'll talk about that. It is now available to buy. Good news. I've been given the update yesterday. You can pay, you're not paying me, you can come up pay what's account me. They have an account that you can buy and you can pay the money in and they'll tell you where you want to pick it. The price, I've been told, has been updated because it has cost more to get it to Nigeria. So if I'm right, I don't want to give the details is on my phone, but I'm going to come back. But I think it's going to cost now 30,000 naira as against 20,000 because dollar inflation, and because the logistic to get it to Nigeria, it's already high. For America, you can pay into the dollar account that they have, and for in the UK, they have a UK account. The back of the sanwo ma phone number àwọn tẹ́ máa pè láti sọ pé èmi ti sanwó tèmi o ibo láti máa gba rédíò yẹn fáwọn family yìí. That is Sherry, what people don't understand. Thank you so much to my backend team. We're going to end this program at 1 o'clock so that I can prepare quickly for the next one because STARR Radio. I have to drink this.
And they begin to systematically address some of these issues.
I'm coming back.
Do you change your mind?
No, because of the deceptions of the past.
No trust.
No trust. Our worry was that it was negotiated. Nothing happened. 1968, I recall. And the confab report. What became of it? How about the 3 R's? Reconciliation, reconstruction, and heaven knows what else. What became of it? Nothing. Calabar Seaport is not working. Can you tell me why it's not working? It's a seaport. Used by the colonial masters. Why is it not working?
What I'm trying to say is that, Sherry, the campaign which we are doing today, there shouldn't be any fight between us and the federal government. It should have just been a campaign that is going. where journalists can come in. We can talk about the exit of Nigeria without being intimidated and without being run after. But because the government knew or knows, especially the politician, that if this kind of campaign is going on, people will start asking questions that this option is better than the one that we are doing. Let me take you quickly, because we are just 6 minutes to the end of this platform today, which we're coming back later. I don't know when, but hopefully very soon. Let me go to Alba Party on their X, which is also known as Twitter. Okay, I'm just reading Simon Ekpa. I've just been told that, okay, no, let me read what Simon Ekpa says here. The Prime Minister of the Biafra government in exile. That is the way I will address him, and I'll continue to address him like that. Money radio ti wà ní Nàìjíríà bí ṣe ń bá gbogbo wa sọ̀rọ̀ báyìí. Radio tí wọ́n fi tà yẹn ó ti wà ní Nàìjíríà. Price tó fi tà kọ́ ni wọ́n máa tà mọ́ nísìn, because the cost tó fi gbedele ó ti high. So it's going to cost 30,000 naira to buy a unit. The UK, I think it's 25 pounds. I got to be very sure of that. In America, I think it's about $25 as well. So you're not paying me, but my number sita, our numbers in Lemakbi, for Intuba were interested, but I've got confirmation. It has now been clear what it got. But it went through a lot, but I'm not going into all the details. But I do for long. What we should have done 2 years ago, the rest of the people that finished this project, at least my name has been cleared. It has cost a lot to produce it. A lot of money. I need the one in the movement. There are people that have a movement in it. I watched them from the mirror before they finished planning. I know it wouldn't have been a miracle if something else happened. Though after I exposed their plan to adjourn the case till February, they changed it slightly last night. The Biafra government is the only hope of Nnamdi Kanu freedom, and it will happen in due time. That is the message from the government of Biafra in exile. Government in exile, government in exile. If you United Nations, that's all right. United Nations told us all to learn in Gaza at Israel. Between Nigeria and the Biafra, United Nations only does it. It will be fire for fire. It will be iron. It will be, at the end of the day, the world will now rise and start talking. So to buy the transistor radio in Yoruba land, it's going to cost you 30,000 naira. Dollar to affect the not just the production, but also the logistics to take it home. I was on the phone throughout yesterday while I was giving the update. I'm happy that eventually that has now finally come into place. I am not the one that you should thank. We should thank few people, I said, that have raised close to $65,000 to get this project to where it is. Koda oti jowoti afi bere radio yen gan lo. But when people think that we are joking, or alone listen to someone ESA, you will not know that this movement is moving forward. Gbogbo àwọn tó dá $65,000 yẹn wọ tó márùn. Mo dúpẹ́ fún wọn. Because àwọn gangan lọ sọ pé this project of the radio will go ahead. So the transistor radio is presently the Yoruba radio, Benny, Bishimba Soro, to Nigeria. That is just the beginning. I think I got to go now. So I got something pressing I need to deal with behind the scene. and then I'll come back. Sorry, I was pointing my comment above, not giving middle finger. Oh, that's okay. I didn't know what that means anyway. I wanted to say something before Moloka. Okay, the Alba Party. The Alba Party, I just want me just less than 60 seconds. Alba Party today, I want one campaign for the Scottish people to break away from the union that has been together. And if you go on their X, which is Twitter, they also do what they call Alba Party crowdfunded. I want to fund the movement. And the people will say, I need a war. I need a war. I need a war. In that they want to put in 12 people. I want to share in Nigeria for Yoruba nation, which is some suggestion that come where you can join political parties. But I want to often make sure we want 12 candidates to darapọ̀ mọ́ Scottish Parliament in 2025. Election born in UK in 2025, like Borolong, January. So that those 12 people, vote for. Everybody knows they are the campaigner that will take their message into the parliament. Just equivalent to our nation, Tabani, LFC political party, beat APC in Lagos State, or Marige. Beat one, or Marige. And APC then endorse a Yoruba nation. Also, I'm just reading one or two things before we go from the Alba Party. This is something that has the opportunity to unite the movement. Okay,
As Neil Hanley was speaking, that very, very powerful image of the 2014 referendum, Scotland's future in Scotland's hands. Very famous.
Did you hear that? Scotland's future is in the Scotland hand. Yoruba future, Owatalowa, Shawa Tinubu lowa, Okusi Bugwalowa.
Poster illustrated that.
Mudupelowo heritage. I love one copy. Hey, imagine these are all the things that we should have to push our message. Different things. Yoruba Nation, Heritage TV, Lotion Jordan Long. Hey, imagine Heritage Band New Topo produce a thousands of farm on your little things. Radio on show fell. Intention so about an interest, like I said, we would probably do a full program on it, just for me to appreciate those that are behind it. Almost $65,000 plus in what it knows so far for that transistor radio to get to Nigeria.
Would you say that the initiatives you're putting forward basically follow that?
So the ban way I want you ṣiṣẹ́ lẹ́yìn, that's of patient lọ lẹ́yìn. But we first need to get the message out every day. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Olami Koike. I hope you've enjoyed, almost 2 hours, from STARR Radio UK to Nnamdi Kanu, explaining a little bit further. We'll come back later for more program. If you also remind yourself that Nigeria will break, it does not matter how long it's gonna take. Anyway, I love what those that are campaigning for Mohbad are doing, but it's the same thing. Justice for everybody, and I hope Mohbad will get a justice, just as I am looking for justice for everyone as well. And kudos to all those our sisters. I'm not going to mention their names. They're working back to back. They're not getting tired. Agboro justice for Mohbad. Ikú tó pa Mohbad yẹn, a fẹ́ mọ̀. Olówó ló wà lẹ́yìn ẹ̀, a fẹ́ mọ̀. Ọba ló wà lẹ́yìn ẹ̀, a fẹ́ mọ̀. Ìjòyè ló wà lẹ́yìn ẹ̀, a fẹ́ mọ̀. Ordinary person ni agboro justice for Mohbad. I will leave it like that. But mo kí gbogbo ẹ̀yin tẹ́ ń ṣe campaign yẹn lọ. Ẹ̀yin máa fà yẹn lọ, káwa máa fà ti bíbà yẹn lọ. Gbogbo a máa padà, a máa wà lójú kan lọ́wọ́ òkè nígbà tí gbogbo ẹ̀ tẹ́yìn bá ń wá tẹ́ ẹ̀ bá rí táwa náà bá rí àjọ pool àwa fa gbogbo ẹ̀ wálẹ̀. Have a very good morning, good afternoon, bye for now. Mo kí ẹ Easy Dollar èèyàn ti Koiki Media ó dàbọ̀.